Let's talk about criminal referrals that were made to my former office, the US Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia, criminal referrals of Don Jr., Jared Kushner, and Steve Bannon. Because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kushner here. So Volume 5 of the Senate Intelligence Committee report on Russian interference is out, and it weighs in at 1,000 pages, and it's a real page turner. Of course, we already knew the ending. Trump and his campaign partnered up with Russia to cheat in and win the 2016 presidential election. And as I make my way through these 1,000 pages, one thing has been reinforced for me. The crimes committed by Donald Trump and company are so dramatic, so clear-cut, so damaging to our democracy that these people must be prosecuted beginning in January. Think about this. This report that was just issued is the product of a Republican-controlled Senate committee. So everything in there has the Republican majority's stamp of approval. So let's see what some of the Republicans said regarding some of their conclusions in Volume 5 of their report. Quote, "It is our conclusion, based on the facts detailed in the committee's report, that the Russian intelligence services' assault on the integrity of the 2016 U.S. electoral process and Trump and his associates' participation in and enabling of this Russian activity represents one of the single most grave counterintelligence threats to American national security in the modern era." I don't want to reread that whole paragraph, but folks, the Russian intelligence services' assault on the integrity of our election and Trump and his associates' participation in and enabling of this Russian attack. You know what that is? That's collusion. Frankly, it's also conspiracy. We will talk more about Volume 5 in the days to come because it is chock full of democracy-killing conduct by Donald Trump and his criminal associates. But I want to turn our attention to another headline that came out today from NBC News, and it's something that's been percolating in recent days. Here's the headline. Senate committee made criminal referral of Trump Jr., Bannon, Kushner, two others, to federal prosecutors. So what we've been learning in recent days is this Republican-controlled committee made criminal referrals of Don Jr., Jared Kushner, Steve Bannon, and two others, Erik Prince, Betsy DeVos's brother, and Sam Clovis, a Trump campaign guy. So let's talk about these criminal referrals. Now, if you have been watching these YouTube videos, I think I've posted 120 videos in the last 120 days. It's been both a grind and it's been energizing because I do these videos as my version of public service announcements. I try to take what I learned as a federal prosecutor for 30 years, sort of working and living inside the federal government, and I try to bring my experience to bear on these legal issues. But I don't just try to identify and analyze the legal issues. What I try to do is analyze the issue, put it in the larger context so we can understand what it means, and then propose a solution. And to that end, some of you may have seen that I recently started a long-form podcast, an hour-long podcast called Justice Matters. And it posts every Saturday. We just went live last Saturday. The second episode will post this Saturday. And as they say, you can get it wherever you get your podcasts for free. It's on all the platforms. And what I do is I try to dig in and really let breathe a discussion of a consequential legal issue of our time. And I try to analyze it, I try to put it in context, and I always try to offer proposed solutions. And here's the thing, folks, and I get excited about this because these solutions are doable. They are imminently doable as long as we have the political will to take them on and to tackle them beginning in January. For example, Mitch McConnell's packing of the courts. There is a way to unpack the courts. I've got a 3-part plan to unpack the courts, and it's a solution that's imminently doable. So I hope you'll join me on Saturday, or at least download the podcast and listen to it whenever you can. It posts every Saturday, and I try to analyze, put in context, and offer proposed solutions to the big problems that we're facing today. So let me try to do those 3 things with respect to this criminal referral of Don Jr., Jared Kushner, Steve Bannon, and Erik Prince and Sam Clovis. First, let's analyze the issue. Let's talk about the issue. Well, it appears that those men may have misled, deceived, or lied to this Senate-controlled committee in their testimony on the topic of Russian interference in our 2016 elections. And that's why this, I'm going to keep saying it, Republican-controlled committee referred these people for a criminal investigation. And they referred them to my old office, my professional home for nearly a quarter of a century, the United States Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia, which is an organization within and part of the Department of Justice. So let's put in context these criminal referrals. So in 2019, these referrals were made, it looks like, the summer of 2019. What was going on at the US Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia? Well, my former US Attorney Jessie Liu, and frankly, she was my colleague back in the early 2000s when we were both prosecutors at the DC US Attorney's Office. She then left and returned as US Attorney. She was my final US Attorney when I retired in June of 2018. I served under 10 US attorneys, and I served under every president from Ronald Reagan to Donald Trump before I retired in 2018. So in 2019, among other things, Jessie Liu was handling matters in her office like the Mike Flynn case, and had accepted Mike Flynn's guilty plea, and she was proceeding, or her prosecutors were proceeding to sentencing. She was handling, or her prosecutors were handling, the Roger Stone prosecution, taking him to trial and getting him convicted. They were handling the Andrew McCabe investigation. And my former U.S. Attorney Jessie Liu decided there wasn't enough evidence to indict Andrew McCabe. Do you think that pleased Donald Trump? Do you think that pleased Donald Trump's attorney, Bill Barr? So what happened around that time, 2019? Donald Trump yanked Jessie Liu out of her position as the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. And we now know criminal referrals were made to that very office of who? Donald Trump's son, Don Jr., his son-in-law, and his close ally, Steve Bannon. His son-in-law, of course, Jared Kushner. So when they yanked Jessie Liu out, this is cruddy, folks. They said, oh, we're nominating you for a position at the Department of Treasury, which was the pretext for pulling her out and installing a Bill Barr lackey by the name of Tim Shea. And now we know that those criminal referrals sat there in the U.S. Attorney's Office, and Tim Shea made decisions about them. What other decisions did Tim Shea make when Bill Barr installed that lackey? Well, we know he tried to kill and is still trying to kill the Mike Flynn investigation, the Mike Flynn criminal case guilty plea. We know that one of the first things Tim Shea did was dumb down the sentencing recommendation in Roger Stone's case. And now we know that Tim Shea sat on those criminal referrals of Don Jr., Jared Kushner, Steve Bannon, Erik Prince, Sam Clovis. And we have no idea what he did to them. Boy, it smells rancid, doesn't it? And this playing with US Attorney assignments in DC is just what Bill Barr tried to do up in the Southern District of New York with Jeff Berman, and what he's doing in the Eastern District of New York with the US attorneys there. Man, he is trying to rig every US attorney's office that he can, so they will all do favors, though, for Donald Trump. Can we talk about proposed solutions, folks, now that we've got the context? By the way, footnote, remember how I said they promised Jessie Liu a position in Treasury, a presidentially appointed position? Yeah, after they yanked her out of her job at the US Attorney's Office, you know what they did? They pulled the rug out from under her, and they took that position back. They revoked it. They reneged. The whole thing was a dirty ruse to do more of their dirty dealing to benefit their friends, and now we know their family members. Proposed solutions. Criminal referrals never really die. So Tim Shea and Bill Barr and Donald Trump could have temporarily, stomped down on those criminal referrals of Don Jr. and Jared Kushner and Steve Bannon, but they never really die. They may hibernate for a while. They may kind of be there dormant. The current leadership may have said, yeah, we're not going to charge anybody related to the president. But you know what we can do in January? We will take the people in a position to take a relook can, will, and should take a relook at those criminal referrals. There's no double jeopardy. There's nothing that says if a case is criminally referred to be assessed for prosecution, and at that moment in time it is decided that no charges will be brought, you can't give it a relook when there's a law-abiding president in place and a law-enforcing attorney general in place, and U.S. attorneys in the 94 U.S. attorneys' offices around the country that actually, enforce the rule of law and honor their oath of office. And come January, what must be done is whoever the U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia is at that time, he or she will need to look at those criminal referrals and decide honestly, ethically, fairly, and in an apolitical manner. Should Don Jr. be indicted? Should Jared Kushner be indicted? Should Steve Bannon be indicted? Should Erik be indicted? Should Sam Clovis be indicted? We don't know the answer to that question because you have to have a full, fair, apolitical investigation first, and then you make charging decisions, regardless if the person to be charged is the president's son or son-in-law or advisor. So the good news, folks, is that justice is coming, and justice matters. As I say, I hope you'll give my podcast a listen. I'm also now on Patreon, so if you feel like you want to support our content, please go to our Patreon page and become a patron. And otherwise, folks, as always, please stay safe. And I look forward to talking with y'all again tomorrow.